Well, hello there. Nice to see you again. I hope you've had a good week. I have. It's not been too bad at all. The weather's a little bit, I've got cardi on now, and rather than just a little top. Yep, into September now. And things are starting to change, aren't they? So, what have we got lined up? Well, by the way, my name's Penny. If you haven't stumbled on me before, not stumbled on me, you know what I mean. My name's Penny. I live in the southeast of England with Pete, my husband, and my 5 chickens. So, welcome on board if you haven't been here before. And hello if you have. Nice to see you again. Not a very good introduction, but I'm not going to do it again. So that's that. You're stuck with it. So I've got a few things here to show you, and one of which I'm wearing. So we'll start off with crafts, shall we? We have a few little segments that you can choose to watch. We've got crafts, poem. Now I was going to intersperse the poem with Pete's piece. But I can't resist reading the poem because Heather Graney has written a poem about Chinwag. So I wanted to read that. So we've got a bit extra today. So crafting, it'll either be Pete's piece or poetry, depending on what I've got, what happens. And also, as he said, depending on whether you like it or not. I mean, shall we let him in or not? That's the thing. We might say no, but we might say yes, we really enjoyed it. So it's poetry today and Pete's piece. But before Pete's piece, we've got Mum's reminiscing. And then we've got a fascinating fact about a woodpecker. And then we've got a little film. And included in the film is a woodpecker. We have a green woodpecker come regularly down to visit. And when we were going out for our walk, just round the corner within the field, there was a woodpecker and its baby. So I put that up, but a little film of the woodpecker on the patio. Yeah, and so I'm going to talk about woodpeckers in the fascinating fact. And we had a couple of buzzards. A couple of buzzards and seagulls were going potty. Managed to get them, but from a distance. And there was a kestrel at Goodnestone Park. And if I told you you couldn't even see it. It was there, but my camera went zoom, and I got it. So it's a little bit, but anyway, it's there. So, and I show you the girls, because I talk about the girls in my introduction. We got 3 teenagers that we got last October in lockdown, and we've got 2 old girls. We got one called Light Sussex, that's her breed, but that's also her name. And she's so friendly and so adorable. And her best friend is another old girl. I've just got the 2 left from the old girls. And she's called Daisy Doo. And she loves me, they both do. They love me singing to them. And when I sing to them down there in the sunshine, they doze off and go to sleep. So she's called Daisy Doo. And I have to sing, my great-granddaughter has a special song that she likes. Johnny, Johnny, yes, Papa. Eating sugar, no, Papa. Telling lies, yes, Papa. Open your mouth, And if I sing that to the girls, you can see them wilt and their eyes close. So I'm up there singing that. So that's not a pretty picture, is it? Oh, somebody's messaged. So what am I going to show you? Well, shall I show you this first of all, what I'm wearing? I wear it all this week in all my different guises, as listening to Mum, listening to Pete, and reading the poetry and doing my crafts. I've got this on, and it's absolutely soft and beautiful. They don't make the wool anymore, and it's from this book, Louisa Harding, Queen of Hearts. It's what you call a 4-ply, but this is like, I don't know what it's like. It's not like wool, but I haven't got a ball band. I've knitted a few things in it, and I absolutely love it. Of course, they don't make it anymore, and I was very fortunate. It's Louisa Harding, she's brought out a new range of wool, and I was very fortunate to meet her at the show just before lockdown. My friend Heather Harris went, and we met her, and she signed it for me. Yeah, but she does a lovely cashmere wool, which is worth getting, but I have knitted it out of, what does it say it was called, if ever you see it? Yarn, Cashmere Baby. That's it. It's called cashmere, and that's why. It's probably just baby cashmere, isn't it? Absolutely gorgeous. This is the photograph of it in the book. Interesting, isn't it? And do you know what? I feel it suits me. It's my type of style. I love the way it's shaped, it's short, the buttons. I love everything about it. But I've knitted it in yellow as well. But this one's the blue one. And I put these little buttons on. Put a little few beads in this button. Just threaded them through. And then did the rest heart. Shall I show you? I'll stand up. And you can see it quite goes into the waist. Do a little twirl. A cuff on the sleeve, I knitted. That's it. Show you a close-up. And these little stripes running across. So while I was there, while I was at the show, which was Upper Street, you know, in Islington, it was the Islington Wool Show, I bought some more wool. So although it's not a whip, because it's not started yet, in my head it's a whip because I've got the wool there ready to make another one. And showing you, do you know what? I feel like casting it on, so I might do that. Now I'm doing 20 minutes a day on my quilt, my flower quilt, and I'm going to do another 20 minutes on my chicken quilt, and we'll see how we go. It's not much to show you at the minute, but I'm keeping up with that, and I'm finding it really, it's lovely. I'm leaving the quilts out, they're on the settee in the conservatory, and I can just sit down and do 20 minutes, quite calming, and we'll see how long it takes. I'll show you as I go along a bit. But there's two whips being really, really sorted. Yeah, they're being dealt with. Yeah, I've got a cup of tea here. I've been busy this morning. So, excuse me, that was a bit slurpy. I'm not cutting things out though. Oh, I won't do that. I won't do that. I'll just do it like they do. Oh, that's better. And you'll see, Mum and I are sitting chatting about her coming back from Scotland, and the kettle switches itself on. It was really peculiar. But you'll see that bit. Anyway, I'm going to show you some Lynette Anderson stuff. We were talking about that, Lynette Anderson, weren't we? And you can purchase all these things at Coast and Country. They still have them in stock. And if you wanted to have a bash at them, that's where you can get the patterns. So this pattern is called the Quilt Shop, and I thought it was rather apt, and I made it into a cushion. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, can't you? You can put it on the wall. I'll show you it. Friendship. The Quilt Shop. She often has these trees, and as you know, she has her little bird with the heart. She often has a sun. This is supposed to be a sewing machine, but she often has the sun in her designs. Fabric, needles, a minute. Fabric, needles and thread equals quilts. And then for these quilts, that's embroidered. That's a piece of Liberty. That's embroidered. And there's a piece, I don't know if you can see it, a piece of white fabric that I've embroidered onto. I would say a beginner could do that. It's really not hard, but isn't it effective? So I teamed it up with Liberty on the front. I love this Liberty, and it's such a vibrant colour. And then my favourite on the back, because I had it and it's lovely. So that sits on a chair in the hall. It's not really one to, lean up against and all of that. It sits on a chair in the hall behaving itself. Now, but you can get the pattern in Coast and Country. So I wanted to show you this. Do you remember me saying how I love Storm at Sea? And this is a Storm at Sea 12-inch. And that's the one you do with the paper. And do you remember me this light. Do you remember me telling you how small the pieces of paper are? It's not for a beginner. No, I wouldn't suggest it at all. I'm going to get a couple out. Well, one out. Look, you've got to wrap fabric around that. And then you've got to sew it together. That is not for a beginner. But I wanted to show you, but you can buy this Coast and Country $3.95 for the kit. Now, when you put these together, do you remember me telling you, you only put one of that row to make two, because then it gives the illusion of it carrying on. And I did a bed runner. Now, I saw a quilt that I really liked called In Full Bloom, and you can get that at Coast and Country. It's 12 embroideries, and then I think they do it as a block of the month as well. So you can buy the fabric and the embroidery, one a month for a year, or you can buy the whole lot, or you can just buy the pattern. You can buy the fabric or just the pattern. Yeah, so I just bought the pattern. Excuse me, I'm thirsty. And I made a bed runner. I didn't want to make a quilt. Pete wanted a bed runner for the summer. Oh, we don't sleep in the same bed because honestly, that is a challenge. I challenge anyone to sleep all night in a bed with Pete. Everybody who knows me knows it's impossible. I mean, it hasn't been possible since the word go, really. How long have we been married? 68. I can't work out how long that is. Is it 52 years? Anyway, I'm not very good at maths, but we're perfectly happy, but we just have separate beds, because anybody who knows Pete, you could wake up in the morning and he'd be asleep on the windowsill. I've known that in a hotel, because that's terrible for us hotels. How do we manage? He just can't do it. So I made him a bed runner for his bed for the summer, and this is it: Storm at Sea, and also In Full Bloom. So there's the Storm at Sea 12-inch. I'm going to put the mic round here, because what I record on has got a very poor mic, so I've got a separate mic. It won't pick my voice up if it's over there. So there's a 12-inch square, the same as that little one I showed you that amounted to 4 inches. Now, can you see there's another 12-inch square, but this line is pinched from this one. So it gives this feeling of movement. I'll show you it in a big quilt, because I'm making it in a big quilt. I'll show you the embroideries. I just sewed them on, made a bed runner in full bloom. There's the little bird again with the heart. I'll be peering, won't I? I love this one because it's all French knots, and I love French knots. A beginner could do this. There's the tree again. She often uses the tree. And the little bird. I made this some years ago. In full bloom. Oh, needs a little bit of repair there. Now let's go on the second line. There's the sun and the little bird again. You see the cat and the dog? I did say the cat and the dog features quite a lot too. The tree. I'll stand up and show you. I thought they were quite his colours. So there we are, in full bloom, coast and country if you're interested. Another slurp of tea, sorry. Now it's Poetry Corner. And usually I will miss out the Poetry Corner if I haven't got a poem, and Pete will do his piece if you like it. You can vote with your, if you don't fancy it. And well, I don't think. Anyway, enough said. So I'm going to read you this poem that darling Heather Graney has written for me to christen my Chinwag. And I love it. It's so personal. It's so beautiful. And thank you very much. So I'm going to go green. And I'm going to get it up. That's it. Penny's YouTube vlog, episodes 1 to 9. I'm going to do a vlog, said Pen. Shall I? Shan't I? That's its name. To chat with friends and family is going to be its aim. So word went out to chums and pals and those who knit and sew. Please listen to my vlog and then tell everyone you know. Oh, I've changed it all on YouTube, but I can't remember its new name. Was it something about crafting? Oh, I've forgotten it again. How about spinning a yarn? Does that name sound okay? No, wait. There's loads called that already. You'll have to search for me all day. Which name she would decide upon, well, she really didn't know. But the vlog would have to go ahead. She'd loads of crafts to show. Pen delved into her box of whips. We couldn't wait to see as she pulled out Tilda, Liberty and St Ashmead EPP. Lina Anderson, Storm at Sea, Kay Fassett's Tumbling Blocks, and we finally saw the completion of Pete's yellow woolly socks. We watched as Penny knitted legs, a head, a tail and ears, a cable jumper and some shorts, and Duncan Mouse appeared. With camera and husband Pete, on their walks they'd take us to and show us birds and wildlife, a coast or country view. They walked around the lighthouse and everything went fine. They crossed the road and made it home without dialing 999. They took us on their outings into Broadstairs, round the bay, and to a country house where they'd enjoyed a lovely day. Turnstones, finches, parakeets and squirrels up a tree. No one watching could be bored. There was always lots to see. Pete's garden looked a picture, the flowers tall and bright, the moon from waxing through to full, a truly stunning sight. In the middle of the vlog one day, Pete darted up the stairs. His urgency had stopped Pen's vlog and caught her unawares. What on earth had happened? Would he tell a shocking tale? No, He'd just been to the grocer's and the raspberries were on sale. We'd learned some fascinating facts. Amazed we were aghast. Why dogs have got 2 noses? How could gannets dive so fast? And miles of DNA and cabbage butterflies, and how bats can safely navigate with teeny weeny eyes. Pen showed us handsome placemats and quilts that she had bound, a hat with lots of curlews on, and a rather wonky hound. She added in some culture, poems and stories which she told. With the different contributions, it was literary gold. Eva reminisced and told us her adventures from the past. Each week her latest memoir, more exciting than the last. We loved to hear about her life, what wisdom we could learn from Penny's darling little mum with her newly coiffured perm. Pete was so supportive, with suggestions and a smile. At the moment he was editing, Pen would wake him in a while. Her followers, they grew and grew from Ireland to LA. The subscribers and the likes Pen got were growing every day. She'd never been so busy. Her days were chock-a-block, but still searching for the ideal name, she was working round the clock. She'd got it. What a perfect name. Her vlog, it was complete. She'd relax out in the garden now, with the chickens round her feet. Now every Monday morning there's a new vlog, come what may, and a cry goes up around the globe, hurrah, it's Chinwag Day. And she says, I can never thank you enough for these delightful vlogs. And I say to you, Heather, I can never thank you enough for your wonderful poems. Thank you. It really hit a spot. So it's popping round to see Mum now and her little reminiscing bit. And so I'd like to say thank you to Mum, and I'll see you round there. Bye. Well, hello. So we're going to talk this week, Mum, aren't we? We've left you in Scotland. Horrible bombs, horrible job. Losing Peggy and the baby must have been so traumatic. But another baby being born, who's my cousin Pat, who is Auntie May's daughter.
Second daughter. Yes.
And it sounded like such a difficult year.
Oh.
Was it about a year you were there?
Yeah, it was a year.
Yeah.
Yes.
About a year.
Yes. Yeah. And it was, because it was a small area, London was very bad with bombs and all sorts of things happening.
Yeah.
But because we were in that small, and it was a dock.
Yeah.
In Gwynedd where I worked, and also where Dad worked in the docks, it was surrounded by things going on in the war.
Yeah.
Oh, it was awful.
Horrible.
So, yes.
Horrible. And you were 14, 15?
I was 15.
Yeah,
yes.
15 now. You're 15, yes, because you were 14 when you left, weren't you?
I was 15.
Right, and then went up 15. So coming on 16 now,
that's
you
right.
are.
Yes.
So we're getting now to be 16. So you think you came back by train because that would have been the only way?
The only way, yes.
Can't remember the journey.
I think the government must have arranged everything because they certainly, Dad had said it was all things that happened was all too much for him, for his age and for my mother as well. Yeah. So I think the government arranged everything, and then Dad had to have somewhere to live and somewhere to work, and they sent him to a small factory which made things for the war, metal things for the war. And it came with a small cottage.
Oh.
And that was in Highbury Barn in London.
Okay.
Quite near where we lived before in Canterbury. It was only a little bus ride, or you could walk there.
Yeah. There was quite a few green spaces around you.
It was a lovely little district. It was lovely.
Right. Okay.
And the little cottage came with a job for my father in helping in the factory, because he replaced a man that had gone to the war. And my mother then, in the evening, had to go, when the factory was closed, had to go and clean the offices. So that was a job for her as well.
Yeah.
And it was a nice little cottage with just 2 bedrooms and a sitting room, a kitchen downstairs.
Right. Fond memories of it there, Mum?
Yes, it was, because it was somewhere nice for us to live, just the 3 of us.
Right.
And
yeah,
I was fortunate to find a job. I had to have a job, and I found a job in small newsagents.
Okay.
Which sold other bits and pieces as well.
Yeah.
And the person that worked there, who ran it, was a woman, with a lovely woman with a 6-year-old daughter, and her husband had gone to the war and he'd been made a prisoner of war. So she never knew what, all the time I worked there, she never knew what, she just knew that he was a prisoner of war, because the government only sent then messages to say that your husband has been taken as a prisoner of war. So they used to run the shop together, the newsagents together, and it was a nice little, very local shop, very well attended, with customers. And we sold newspapers. I'd learnt all how to bundle them up and sort them out where they went in their different areas, where they went, where they were delivered. And we also sold all these extra bits and pieces. And one of the things that we sold were combs, which were very short during the war, because they were made of celluloid. And I believe you looked up.
I did look up celluloid, yes. And they used to make, it was a replacement way back in the 1800s for ivory.
Yes.
And then they started making dolls out of celluloid and musical instruments. And then they covered so much, tables, clocks, everything with this celluloid, and it made it look sort of like a veneer, old,
that's right.
you know.
Made it look like a polished surface.
That's right, And they used to make table tennis balls out of it, that sort of thing. But the dolls as well, but especially combs.
Yes.
And that was one of the things. And fountain pens. Fountain pens.
Yes.
And I've forgotten what took over. What was the thing that took over from celluloid?
Bakelite.
Bakelite.
Yes.
Because celluloid was highly flammable. Yeah. So you imagine having a doll. Everybody's got fires in those days, haven't they? It was highly flammable.
And when you went in the shops, then the tables and things were full of all the new things that had come through.
Yeah.
So, my goodness, if those shops caught fire.
There was a bomb drop on them, they would have gone up, as well as
or
homes.
An incendiary bomb,
exactly.
They would have gone up in flames quite quickly. So, but with the combs, because they were made of celluloid, and the celluloid then was used for other things in the war, there was a shortage. So whenever we had a small parcel of those delivered, they went under the counter.
People you knew?
Because they were saved for regular customers.
Regular customers.
Yes.
Yeah. So I suppose it did you good to shop regularly in a shop and get treated, rather than shop or wherever you fancied.
Yes.
Yeah, because you got to know the people.
Yes, exactly.
And you'd want to support a woman whose husband is a...
Yes. She worried a lot about what was happening to him, and of course she never knew what happened to him until the war finished.
Was he all right?
And he was sent home. Yes, he was all right. But he'd had pretty awful time.
And you helped your mum in the evenings as well?
Yes, well, because that was part of the package of the job. Dad helped in the factory all day and stayed on night to sweep up and clean the bits of metal and things, because nothing was wasted then.
Yeah.
It was all recycled and done, made other things with. And Mother then, when I came home from work, which was usually about 5:30, then I would go into the office and help Mum with the offices, and then we'd come back and get the tea or whatever there was that we had in the way of rations to have for tea.
And was your friend...
Friend Rose was, Friend Rose was lovely then, because she was back then.
Oh, she was back
because
she was
finished,
old enough.
Yes, because she finished at 15.
Yeah.
She was back home then, and we used to spend I was back in London. I used to go to her for tea, or she'd come to us on a Sunday perhaps, and and we used to spend time in the park, because we were quite near Highbury Fields then, which was absolutely a lovely place. No railings there, so you could just walk through and do
around
and
enjoy it.
It was a lovely area.
And Uncle Dick, who was 21 years older than you.
Yes.
So you're now 15, 16. He's 30.
He's 37.
37,
yes.
Mum.
Yes.
You've got a brother of 37. And he had a son in 1940.
Yes.
Yeah?
That's right.
Your nephew.
Yes.
So here we go now. He's a little one.
Yes.
2 or 3.
Yes.
And do you remember seeing him?
I remember seeing him, but not very often, because I think Ada, his mum, I think she lived in Elephant and Castle, which was quite along the other side of London. Yes, it was the other side of London.
So, you might say now, oh, that's, it's not far. No. But in those days, it was far, wasn't it?
Yes, and because you couldn't keep in touch, the only way you kept in touch with people was by letter.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a phone then. I mean, there were telephones, of course, but we didn't have one.
No point you could phone at the bottom of the road in a phone kiosk, but if you haven't got a phone, you can't phone them, can you? No.
So that was the only way that you could keep in touch with somebody, and because it was serious, then you would go to a phone box and phone somebody who owned a telephone to give somebody else a message.
Oh, righty-ho.
Yes.
Yeah, passing messages on.
That's right. That was.
And so there's Uncle Dick. He's 37 then. He's away at war though.
Yes, he's in the army.
In the army, okay. And
Alf's in the Navy.
Lost his wife and daughter. Yes. And your mum's cleaning these offices, your dad's, but at least you're near Highbury Barn. You're in an area, and you're with your friend again.
Yes.
Yeah. But family-wise, you've gone through it, haven't you?
Oh, yes.
But of course, your sister is up in Scotland now with her 2 children.
With her 2 children, yes. Because her husband wasn't allowed to come back. No. His job was necessary up there. Yeah. So she was still up in Scotland. I can't find
her birth certificate, Mum. But we found Peggy and Alf's marriage certificate. They got married in Islington in 1939. But I can't find Pat's birth certificate. So whether, who knows? It was in the war. It was in Scotland. And who knows? She might know, but we don't know.
No. No.
But that's the situation with the family.
Yes.
Now, when I do your family tree, Mum, your mum's got sisters, brothers, you've got cousins. No, you don't know anything about them, do you?
No. The only 2 aunts I remember was Aunt Anne and Aunt May.
Right.
And Aunt May was married to somebody in the bank, and they lived in a house. And we only visited them very, very rarely. And if we did, it was always high tea. Everything was
good job.
Yes.
So she married into money.
Yes.
So that's your mum's sister, who you remember, May and Anne. So I'll look them up for next time. Maybe we'll have a little chat about May and Anne, because your mum's mum, Annie Jemima, she'd died when your mum was young.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
She died in her 40s. And so your mum was young. So she must have relied on her sisters quite a lot.
Yes, and she was very close to Anne.
Yeah.
We used to see Anne always holiday times, Easter Sunday or Monday.
Oh, righty-ho.
And we always took a tin of salmon, and it had to be red salmon because that was more expensive than pink salmon.
Yeah.
But always a tin of salmon. That was the gift, as my mum called it, a present to take. And they lived the other side of London. They lived near the Elephant
So that was
Castle.
a trek again.
Yes.
Everywhere was a trek for you, which is why,
exactly.
you know, and of course your mum had lost her other sister, who she named you after, when she was 23. Yes. And so, but you remember then Frank visiting, don't you?
Oh, yes.
And this was probably where he visited, where you live now?
Frank was...
Yeah.
No, I don't remember him ever coming there, so I don't quite know what happened while we were up in Scotland.
Maybe he was at war.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't remember him at all after.
After Scotland, you don't remember him?
No.
The kettle's turned itself on. Oh. How does a kettle turn itself on? Right, keep it real, says Son. Keep it real, so we'll keep that in. Yes. So maybe it's time to stop now, Mum, then.
Lovely.
And so we'll carry on with your mum and dad and the Highbury Fields and you growing up a bit.
Yes.
We'll carry on next week. So lovely to see you.
Yes. So see you next week.
Yeah. Bye then.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So hello again. Now I must stop saying hello all the way through, otherwise it's hello, hello, hello. Let's just carry on. So this bit's fascinating fact, and it's about the woodpecker. Now, I put a little bit up in the film after this, and let me just get it up. I can't remember it all, so I have to just refer to some notes. Okie doke, the woodpecker, marvellously designed for drilling. So it says in less than 3 seconds, a woodpecker may bang its chisel-like bill for some 44 times against a tree trunk. 44 times in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. He's done it 44 times. I can't believe it. I know. So why doesn't he get dizzy? It's about the design of the woodpecker's head, obviously. Now, just let me fast forward that bit. Right. It says he's got a strong yet flexible bill, and he's got a hyoid. It's a structure of bone and elastic tissue that wraps around the skull. And I know that does control the tongue as well, because I've read it. And that tongue, from its bill, can protrude another 4 inches. So it can reach right in and get all the little grubs and all the little, bits and bobs that it's after. It's got this area of spongy bone in the skull, and it's got very little space for cerebral spinal fluid between the skull and the brain. So 4 elements: flexible bill, this structure of bone and elastic tissue that wraps itself around the skull and then controls the tongue, this area of spongy bone in the skull, and a little space for cerebral spinal fluid between the skull and the brain. Each of these elements absorbs mechanical shock, allowing the woodpecker to strike a tree at a rate of up to 22 times per second with no injury to the brain. Wow, 22 times per second. Well, that's more. So, it can do up to that, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, that's amazing, isn't it? No injury to the brain, that's the main thing. So, inspired by the woodpecker's head, researchers have developed a casing that can withstand a G-force of up to 60,000. Their success may lead to, amongst other things, better protection for aircraft flight recorders. The aircraft flight recorders now can stand G-force of 1,000. Aircraft flight recorders. Is that the black box, what they call the black box? Okay, you can imagine the G-force that might have to, withstand. So the Woodpecker's 60,000. At the moment, it's 1,000. But as Kim Blackburn said, who's an engineer at Cranfield University in the United Kingdom, what's been discovered about the woodpecker's head provides a fascinating example of how nature develops highly advanced structures in combination to solve what at first seems to be an impossible challenge. So the fact that, as we said before, the fact that the woodpecker can do it, it gives these scientists, no, we'll bang away, we'll try and get it done. If they hadn't seen the woodpecker, they'd think it was impossible. But because they know the woodpecker can do it, it pushes them on, it spurs them on. But then when you look at our photograph that I've put out and our little movie of the woodpecker, take a look at its legs. They're very short and they're strong and they're ideally suited for climbing in the vertical position. And the foot consists of 4 toes, with the second and third toes pointing forward and the other 2 pointing backward. And the 4th toe can be moved to the side and front. Each toe is equipped with a sharp, curved claw. So each foot can function as a pair of tongs, enabling the woodpecker to get a firm grip as it climbs the tree trunks. It's interesting. So notice how short those little legs are when you look at the robin afterwards with long legs. He's dumpy, isn't he? And then the tail, I thought this was interesting, contributes its part to the bird's successful existence. It works as a prop or a brace while it hammers away. And it's got 12 strong feathers in the tail. And when it molts, which they all do, don't they, the birds, the 2 long feathers don't ever go until the others have grown back, because they need that support as the brace for when they do their tap, tap, tapping. It says a G-force measuring between 80 and 100 is strong enough to give you a concussion. Yet the woodpecker sustains a G-force of about 1,200 as it drums its bill against tree bark. Yeah. So quite interesting. Fascinating fact about the woodpecker. See you in the next bit. Well, here we are again. This time, this is Pete.
Hello.
Other half. And he's got some stories to tell. So I thought, well, why not tell them on Chinwag? People like to listen when they're getting their dinner ready or whatever they're doing. So Pete spent quite a bit of time on the Isle of Wight. And that's where we thought we'd start. Start from the Isle of Wight, and then if it takes off and he's a success, then we'll let him do some other stories that sort of,
go. Thanks, love.
That's all right. Go round and round from that. So we'll start off there, Isle of Wight.
Yeah.
So what comes to mind when I say that to you, Isle of Wight?
Oh, great fun.
Great fun.
Characters, some weird, not weird, some great characters that lived there then. Well, Shanklin, Isle of Wight, basically.
Shanklin.
Shanklin.
Isn't that the sunny side of the island?
It is the sunny side of the island. In fact, Shanklin was always second in the, I think it was the Daily Express. They used to do a chart with the most sunniest places in England during the summer, and Jersey always used to be number 1, and Shanklin always used to be number 2.
So did you like the sun then?
Well, yeah. I wasn't a sun lover. I didn't get...
Just like the fine weather?
Yeah, I like the fine weather, warm weather.
Yeah, so what took you to the Isle of Wight?
Well, when we were at college, I went to catering college, and we had an extra long summer holiday, over 3 months it was. But part of that 3 months or 3.5 months, you had to work for at least 4 weeks in a catering establishment. It could be anything. You could pick anything, cafe or. So, a mate I'd made at college, Tom, and we decided we'd go to Shanklin to the Channel View Hotel. And the Channel View Hotel's still there, as far as I know. It was there a couple of years when I looked at it on Google. But it wasn't. I hope it's a bit better than it was when I worked there. But it was okay though. It was a typical 1960s English hotel, you know.
People didn't go
view.
abroad then. They hadn't started
No,
going
didn't go
abroad
abroad.
then. There wasn't the Freddie Lakers and the,
No.
to take you off abroad. That came a bit later.
Mm.
So can you remember what year this was? That when you first went?
Yeah, 1960. 61 was it? 60 or 61.
Okay.
I was 15 when I left school, and I
Right.
was 15 when I started college, which was the same year. So
Yeah.
I left school in March, started college in the September,
Yeah.
and then so it was. Then we went to college, and it was been 19. I would have been 16.
16?
So that would be
1961.
Yeah.
I think you felt a lot older, didn't you?
Well, we were a lot older in those days.
Oh,
Well, you
right.
weren't mollycoddled until we were 24.
Oh,
You've
oh,
got.
now don't let's get controversial on my channel, please. Okay, right, we'll forget that. This is
Okay.
a happy channel.
Well, I'm happy because I was
Good.
happy because we were allowed to do a lot of
He
things.
was. So you imagine, 16, off you tootled to the Isle of Wight with your friend Tom,
Yeah,
and you landed up at the Channel View Hotel.
that's it.
And you didn't think much of the hotel,
No,
but you loved being there.
yeah, it was great fun.
Okay.
And the first person I met, the day we got there, he introduced himself, and now there's a story about him. His name was either Tim or Jim.
Jim.
But nobody knew because half of Shanklin called him Tim, and the other half called him Jim.
Was he Irish?
He was a little Irish lad. He was been in a circus. He was the pop man at the Channel View Hotel. He did all the washing up and everything,
Right.
and a bit of odd jobs as well. But he took us out. He said, "Come on, I'll take you to meet a few people." And he took us to the pier. Well, he took us to the beach first of all because we had a few days on the beach because it was so nice.
Shanklin Pier.
But then we went to Shanklin Pier because we had 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock. We were off every afternoon, and then we go back at 5 o'clock until about 7, and then so it was quite good hours, 8 till whatever.
So who did you meet at the pier?
Well, he introduced us to a lot of people, but the bloke who really stood out was a man called Daredevil Les.
Daredevil Les.
He was a character. Yeah, he was quite famous, but we didn't know. He wasn't famous to us, but he was.
Looking him up, he was a famous guy.
Yeah.
And I'll put that up and we'll tell you about him. But you didn't know at the time.
No.
At the time, he was just Daredevil Les.
Yeah, and Tim took us. I always called him Tim. Tim took us to meet him, and he lived under the pier.
Under the pier.
Right at the end, where the dance hall was. Underneath you could get down on it was like a little walkway, and there were like a little cabin or two where they stored stuff. But he had one, and Tim took us in, and
What was that like?
well, it was just a bed in the corner, and big sea chests all round the wall,
Sea chest.
and there was this bloke who had a hook nose, and the place stunk of booze because he was an alcoholic, and he woke up and said, "Who's this lot?" You know, and we were introduced, and Tim said, "When are you going to do your act?" And Daredevil Les said, "I'll be up in a minute. Go and get the crowd." And Tom and I looked at each other and thought, "What's going on here?" So anyway, we all trooped up to the pier. And Tim started walking around on his hands and doing tumbles and started shouting out, "Yeah, but Daredevil Les is going to do his act in a minute." And by this time he had a sort of costume on.
What sort of costume?
Well, it was an ordinary costume then, But except, well, when I say ordinary, it was like a strong man's. It wasn't quite so.
What,
ordinary.
black?
It was black with Bovril written on it.
Bovril?
Yeah.
Oh, just ordinary, you know,
Yeah,
like
just
you
ordinary,
see. Yeah, I often saw people with Bovril costumes on. Just ordinary.
No, well, you know,
Yeah.
it was almost like ones Mum used to knit.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's like a strongman act one.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And he was doing these tumbling, and the crowd started to appear, and he was going round, and then he went on the pier on the diving board. And
there was a diving board on the pier.
Yeah, and it went up. It was 3 levels. The level of the pier, then another one, a couple, a few hundred, well, not 100.
No.
20 foot up, say, and then another one on top of that. And when the top board was really, really high, especially when the tide went out.
Wow, did people used to go off it?
Well,
Daredevil,
no, well,
not
you could. There was nothing stopping you. It wasn't.
But people didn't.
But I never saw anybody go off it. But anyway, Tim went off the first one, and he did a somersault, beautiful somersault, went diving, and he came up, and then he went to the second one. And he did a backward. Well, I can't remember, but he really,
impressive.
He could dive, And anyway, by this time, Daredevil Les had come up, and Tim took the money box from him and started going around saying,
all right,
because people used to put money in to pay for it, and anyway. And then Daredevil Les. Well, the other thing I didn't tell you, only had one hand.
One hand?
Only had one hand. He'd lost a hand.
Right.
And the hand was wrapped with a red bandage, and he used to hold it above his head. And as he walked round the pier, saying, "I'm going to do my Daredevil dive. I'm going off the highest dive board in the country," and all that. And anyway, he started climbing up, because you can imagine he's got one hand. He's climbing up the ladder. So
yeah. And he's a bit worse for wear.
He's very worse for wear.
Yeah.
And because Tim had done all these brilliant dives and everybody had clapped and cheered. And then he got to the top and we looked up and it was quite high. And then we looked down at the sea and that was a long way down. And Tom said, "Oh, blow me, I don't fancy that." I said, "Oh, no, nor do I. Let's see how he does."
Yeah.
Anyway, he lurched from side to side on the top diving board, and everybody thought, they were all going, because it looked like it was going to fall off the side before he even got there. Anyway, he got to the end and he held his hand up and he said, "Are you ready?" And everybody went, "Yes." "Are you ready?" "Yeah." It was quite a crowd by this time, all around the pit. And
never seen anything like
and then he just fell off the end.
Oh no.
He just, a great huge splash at the wall. Everybody cheered. Well, didn't cheer at first because he went under and we thought, is he going to come up? And as soon as he broke, his arm came up first, the one without the hand.
What a way to earn your living.
And a great cheer went up, and Tim went round with the money and to get more money, and they all put in money in, and then he came up, and that was it. That was Daredevil Les's bit for the day.
Daredevil Les.
But we got to know him quite well, and we started going in with him.
In where?
In the sea. But we'd thought it would be a good idea this particular day. Because in these sea chests in his cabin, he had all this stuff. He had all different tops. He had different costumes. He had hats, balaclavas, and all sorts of stuff. So we all got dressed up. And he called us, what did he call us? He's mermaids.
Oh, he's mermaids.
I mean, we're all blokes.
Yeah.
And anyway, so we all got dressed up. But
what
in all this Bovril stuff and, all the gear. And on a cape, we had capes.
Capes, right.
This was the very first time we ever did it. Right. We had a cape.
Yeah. Did you do it more than once then?
Yeah, but not with a cape on.
Not with the capes.
We put our own collars because we were running around just like this with the capes, just trying to get a crowd. And then we went down underneath the pier to the jetty where the steamers used to come in years ago, and drop off people for Shankling, because all the boats used to, steamer boats used to come round. The Sandown Pier was just down the road, and they'd drop people off there, and then they'd drop. And we jumped off the side there. Well, it was great fun, and everybody went, right, all that. But the trouble is, when we hit the sea, all this stuff was wool, and the cloaks, and it got heavy, and we got to get back to the thing. And anyway, and that was when I first met Ian Finley, because he was doing it as well. Ian Finley had come down for a holiday.
He was our best man.
And he lived in Potter's Bar. And
he lived in Potter's Bar, where Pete came from.
That's right. So
what a coincidence.
And I said, what are you doing here? And anyway, so he jumped in as well.
He jumped in as well?
Yeah, he'd come down with a mate who was just getting over pneumonia.
Right.
And he was supposed to be taking it easy.
Right.
And this lad went in as well.
Oh.
So there was 4 of us. There was Tom, Ian's mate, Ian, and of course Tim was still doing his bit up top.
And you.
And me. So the 4 of us all went in, and then he did all the driving, because Tim was doing his bit. And it was quite good fun, but to get back, we just about got back. But Ian's mate got ill, because he shouldn't have done it.
No.
And so he had to go home. So Ian stayed.
And that's how you got married.
And that's how I got to know Ian Finley, my best man.
Yeah.
And we just...
So Daredevil Les, and I'll tell you about Daredevil Les, just me and you, not Pete. But he wanted to tell you, just about... So that was what happened on the Isle of Wight, apart from anything else.
And of course we were 16.
16. Little lads.
And when you think about it, they wouldn't allow it now for a start, but to be stupid enough to put all this wool and stuff on.
Yeah.
But it was a bit, getting back to the jetty, we all managed to do it, but crumbs, we were a bit worried.
Daredevil Les.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for telling us
That's
that.
all right.
We'll have another little story.
But we met some other
time.
good characters there.
Did you?
The bloke who had who ran the pedlos, I got very friendly with him.
Right.
And the bloke who did the speedboat, he had he'd broken his neck and it had set, so it was at the side like that all the time. I can't remember their names, so they were a good crowd. And of course, we were supposed to do 4 weeks.
Right.
Tom did 4 weeks, but I loved it. So I stayed to the end of the season. I didn't come back till term started, which was September.
Yeah.
And I was down there all the time, not working at the Hyde Park Hotel, not working at the Channel View Hotel.
Yeah.
I left because I didn't like it there.
No.
And I worked on the pier.
Oh, you worked on the pier?
Yeah,
One of the pier boys.
I worked on the pier in the dance hall there.
Well, we have to wrap it up because we only have so many time for our slot,
okay. Right,
so we're going to tell you...
I could go on forever.
Well, that's good because we've got forever.
And the Isle of Wight, anyway.
That's good. We've got forever, and so we'll hear more from Pete. Now,
I think I've got a photograph of Tim and me together.
I'll put it up. And Daredevil Les. We'll put Daredevil Les
I haven't got
up.
a photo.
No, but I've got one.
But I've got a very... It's not very clear, but it shows you it does show you the diving boards on the pier.
Okay,
Put
it'll
that
be
up
here.
as well.
It'll be here. So we'll say cheerio.
Yes, I'll say cheerio as well.
Yes.
It's nice to have met you
Goodbye
all.
from me and goodbye from
Me.
him. So nice to have met you all. That's nice. Yes, he feels part of the party now. He doesn't have to gate crash with the shopping. With the shopping, what you've done.
No, me,
You've got a slot of your own.
I nearly had my head cut off that day.
Oh. And so what we're going to call this slot? Well, we'll have to think, won't we?
But it's not going to be every week, is it?
Well, it might be. We want to hear more of your stories.
I thought it was in between the...
Go for it.
Not the poem. What's the other
poetry. One? Poetry corner.
No, not poetry corner. What was it? You had 4. You did 4. You got 4 things.
Yeah, well, we're going to say goodbye now because we'll carry on this conversazione between ourselves. Bye. So thanks, Pete. Well, that was unusual, wasn't it? A little story from the Isle of Wight. Now, let me tell you about Daredevil Les. His dad was a similar sort of guy. In fact, his dad lost his leg performing. And his dad was well known because he taught royalty to swim, because he was such a brilliant swimmer. He lost his leg at the age of 4 and he learned to swim at the age of 12. And he taught royalty, as we say, and he had this career as a high diver. And one of his things was that he dived from a tower which was over 60 feet tall, and he dived into a tank. The tank was 16 foot in diameter and it only held 5 feet of water, and he set it alight and he dived into that. And that was his party piece, if you like, amongst other things. He was super at doing it. And he rescued many people. He was given awards for the amount of people he rescued when he heard them in distress, because he was such a good swimmer. And anyway, he died at 80. So he lived to a ripe old age. Now, Frank's son, Daredevil Les, was also a high diver, and he worked on Skegness Pier, and then he worked all around the country, and of course that's where Pete bumped into him. I think at the end of his career, more or less, by the sounds of it, living underneath the pier. And it says one of his tricks was to perform a backward somersault while sitting on a chair off the high board built on Skegness Pier. It said that Leslie had made some 30 life-saving rescues in the sea. Oh, yeah, he was the one who did that. And unfortunately, Leslie Gatsby had to have part of an arm amputated after an accident during a performance with his father on Weston-super-Mare Pier. But he was able to carry on performing. And that's where Pete saw him. And I mean, it was such an experience for Pete. I mean, Bovril. So thank you very much, Pete, for telling us about that. And if you like it, he's got several more stories, that he might tell. So I think what we'll do is because this one's quite long now because I got the poem in, but we'll do a poem or Pete's piece instead, because I'm not going to have a poem for every week, am I? And I just said to my friend, I've just been talking to her, oh no, it's gone over the hour this week. Oh goody, she said. So there we are. I was worrying, but no need to worry. So I hope you enjoyed this episode 10 and all that's contained in it. And I will say cheerio, this is goodbye, but now I'm going to leave you with a little film. So I'll see you in episode 11 next week. Take care and have a good week. Look after yourselves. Bye.